it doesn't look good. It looks like an alien with a bike helmet on. So I'm gonna have to redo that. What I'm gonna do, instead of doing basically these sort of the succession of strips that go to kind of bent down, what I'm gonna do is the sort of more standard thing that I tend to do, where you sort of create. Let's see. Instead of like these 4 pieces, you get 6 strips that are basically like half wedges, sort of the top half of wedges, and then you sort of, that's the drawing is support, but you make like 5 or 6 of them, and then depending on how tall the wedge is and the angle at which it sort of meets the top, it determines the sort of the angle of the curve, like the curve of the head, and if it sort of goes like, or what. The Colbert puppet right here has a fairly sharp one, so it goes up and then kind of like almost like a square with a triangle on top. Whereas Bono's a little more, it's a softer, it's a more gradual thing. So I'm going to do that. The only reason I didn't do it for this one is I just was, since I was trying a bunch of new stuff, I figured I'd try all new stuff, and it didn't work as well as it might. So what that means is I'm going to revise the paper patterns, although I probably will do it just on the computer because I have a bunch of wedge patterns. Now, in addition to the head, also it's not tall enough, so it kind of looks a little like she's missing a good chunk of her skull, and she's a very smart character, so that doesn't make any sense. The head should be like, to here or something. It should sort of bow out, kind of, that. The other thing that I'm going to change is I'm going to get rid of the mouth here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it with just basically a straight line, because when you sort of, because by default the mouth is open, but that means it's deformed to close the mouth. So if she's not talking, she kind of gets a little scrunched. Also, I'm going to not cut the eyes out first. The pattern pieces call for here for the eyes to be cut out first, and that's kind of silly because if it's not exactly positioned, which it was not in either of these 2 cases, then the eyes don't line up, and depending on how I cut the foam, then the eyes will be different sizes, so they look a little off kilter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically build another one of these with no eye holes and no mouth cut, and then when it's assembled, I'm going to sort of trace out where I want the eyes to be. It'll also allow me to position it better when it's actually on the place, and then if I were to use this for Bobby or for some other character, I could change the eye size and the eye position and also the mouth height and width and all that stuff without causing any problems. Additionally, I will probably make this one piece. I kind of needlessly have this as 2 pieces, and also the sort of cheekbones, and also the jowl area I will probably make into one. The reason for that being it'll get rid of this glued seam here, and also here, which just given the space, it's a little clunky. It makes it sort of remove some of the flexibility. I like the chin. I may try to make the chin a little more solid, but or substantive. So this is a process. Lots of revisions, iterative revision. Now, depending on the need, I might just be okay with the head as is, and then add the top of the skull. But I figure, I'm going for it, so I'm going to go for it. So the next bit you're going to see probably on some other day, depending on because of my schedule and whatnot, will be the next version of the foam with hopefully a much better head. So it'll be a successive one, because if you look here, you can see a bunch of skulls. So those are my prototypes. I think 1, 2, and 3, which get you to Colbert, who's off in the corner. You can't really see him. But so it took me a bunch of foam efforts. Now I wasn't using as many paper doll pattern. I think I actually did all 3, and then paper to make the 4th pattern, and then did that. But so it took a lot of iteration. So it's cool. It's kind of neat. It's like what Michelangelo say, you're cutting away the excess to reveal what's underneath. It doesn't exactly work in this case, but it's still kind of cool. Hey everybody, it is Friday morning now. I guess the days really don't matter, but anyway, I work in the mornings before other work a lot of the time. Sort of come in the basement. That's why I'm wearing the house coat. Because it's actually about 9:30 now, so I've been up for a little while doing some stuff, some writing and some other puppet related stuff. But here we are, Caprica 6, working on her head. There are the 2 previous versions of her head on my what is sort of becoming my head prototype wall, because I think it just looks cool. Anyway, so this is the new headpiece. This is what it's going to be. The previous one, you'll recall, was more like, kind of like that twice, like a bunch of sort of wedge segments like that. But basically, I'm going to cut 6 of these. I'm going to sort of put them one beside each other, Then this is going to bend down to create the arc of the head. If you look here, it's the same thing. So this is one of the wedge for Colbert, and then it kind of becomes a triangle there. So I'm going to make 6 of these, and if this works, then I'll scan it and do all this stuff. Yes, I'm just going to do the redo of this immediately, just with paper, just for speed. And then if it works, I will sort of more formally make this on the computer for subsequent ones. Also, I'm just going to be making the one at a time this time, because I made the 2, as you can see right there. The problem with that was both of them didn't work, so I should have waited until I actually knew the pattern will work. So I'm going to do the one, and then if I have to do another, but it'll be just one at a time. It's quicker, feels less like I'm wasting materials, and I feel like I'm breaking less. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll show you that when the pieces are in place. So here we have the head view. You can see how it kind of goes up and then sort of curves in. It's a little loose on top, but when I put the fabric on, it'll tidy it up a bunch. I had to I had to make it fit the head that I'm using. Apparently I mismeasured one of these segments. I sort of cut in half, roughly speaking, which I have to remember for patterning. But if you notice, if you put it on the head here, it looks kind of appropriate, and certainly much more head-like compared to. So if you compare the two here, I don't know how well you can see that here, but one looks like a helmet, one looks more like a head, and then from the side looks more like a head, which kind of matches the drawings in a way. So I have pieces for for the next iteration of the face, which I will probably do right now. You can see just the sort of the height I went for there. It's not quite as tall. The profile is pretty close, but it's not quite as tall. It's not quite as rounded. I think it'll work. And it's kind of cool. She looks kind of like Iron Man rather than a gray alien, compared to the two. So I may or may not, I'm not decided yet, do this again, but change the shape of this. I mean, aside from the fact there's a big hole in the top, but that's okay because the fabric will cover that. I could sort of smooth this out and try to make it a little more like a ball. But the top of the head is okay. I feel like I should fix this, but I'm not sure exactly how to fix that. Shy of making her head actually go up taller. But yeah, I think it'll work. It's kind of Iron Man-y. And then what I'm going to do here, I think I mentioned before, but I'm going to cut a slit there and put the mouth sort of mech right there, so that this is how it'll look when she's not talking, rather than with the previous one, it would actually have to crunch up her thing. Also, this head is a little bit, it's hard to tell because the light makes it look worse, but it's a little lopsided, the gluing that I did, because my cutting was less than precise because I kind of rushed this one. So I may do that again too, but I'm not sure. But it looks cool though. I think it looks, at the very least, I'm on the right direction. Or, at the very least, I'm on the right path.
I'm in the dark and you're a shooting star, and in the night it wouldn't be so hard if you'd come back home.